than this one. I mean, it's strange to say we're playing fourth place away from home, but that is where Manchester City find themselves. Shouldn't ignore they've still won a lot of games. We shouldn't ignore that they've scored the second most goals in the Premier League as well, just to be clear on that. The form table maybe isn't as bad as people think. There's a couple of hammer-ins of Ipswich in there. They beat Chelsea at home. Yes, Arsenal absolutely pumped them at the Emirates, but they also battered Newcastle at home. So this doesn't feel like the absolute give me it maybe did a good few weeks ago, which would have probably been better playing them at the time. We know who their threats are. If you don't know who Haaland is and people like that, I can't really help you. All we know is there's a chance he could be out, but there is goals in this team. What I think it's important to say, though, Barts, is there's not really legs in this team. They give up chances. The defence have been rotated. Do the stats give us real hope as well as what we're seeing recently?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be... we've all been in far too long to know to complete... I'm not saying City get in with the league, but they're not suddenly become horrible, like a rubbish side. They are still a very good side and capable of doing things. So that's just something to know. We always look at what shots they are producing and what not. That has dropped off a bit in the last two, but they're still averaging around, let's say, 15 shots a game, which is pretty decent. Later on, it's a bit of a cutout there, but most of the others, they're in and around those. In terms of XG, they are, apart from Ori, which I won't recognise, it's about 1.5 XG a game. Even last night, where they got battered by Madrid, they still created 1.5 XG. So, that's not, you got to it's really important that people don't get carried away by thinking, oh, these are there for the taking. They might well be, but they still have players that in a moment can take the game away from you. So that's important to know. In terms of shots that they concede, so, last night they conceded, that's the first game against Madrid, sorry. They conceded 20 shots to Madrid. And I know that's Madrid, but that's still an incredibly high amount of shots to concede in the top level. Yeah. But they're averaging over 10 a game conceding, which is unlike them. They would normally be down in single figures to concede these shots. Shots on target, again, is creeping up around the 5-ish, which they just wouldn't be doing normally in a vintage year, should we say. And they're conceding probably around the 1.5. So they're about par with the XG. There's some games here where they consider a lot of XG. Paris, for example. So against some of the elite oppositions that we say, and I am going to put Paris in that, and Madrid, they've conceded a lot of XG. The Newcastle one was a funny game, wasn't it? Because they battered Newcastle, only conceded 0.5 XG, created more. So that is an interesting note, and that just gives you an indication of what they can still do to a side. Arsenal changed the way they play against them, so they still created 1 XG against Arsenal, though. But Arsenal typically would sit in with a bit of a block and play a bit on the counter. They wouldn't try and play through you. They try and do set pieces. Yeah. But Arsenal get City went at them because they have no legs in midfield. Well, they're not no legs. They can't get around. They can't cover the ground as much, so you can run through them. And they got the result they needed to. Newcastle tried the high press, which is what they do, and then try and be strong defensively. But again, coming back to the point, the City players haven't got worse. They can't necessarily do the whole system thing. If you try and high press the City side, you have to be really good at it because they are really press resistant. Every single one of their players is very comfortable at playing a little triangle, getting themselves out of trouble, and then they're down there in the scoring, which is kind of what happened against Newcastle. Yeah, they got lucky, they got an early goal, fine, but they still built on that as we went forward. So yeah, I think there's some things to be wary of and things to be not. If we go back to our old favourite, which is understand. The City here are so actually they've created. They should have scored 50 goals. They've scored 52, so they're 2 over. In terms of conceding, they should have conceded 38, and they've conceded 35. So they're a little bit hot, but they're kind of in the right range. In terms of points, what are they? Actually, they got 44 points. I can't quite believe I'm saying City have got 44 points with only 12 games to go, but anyway. And they should have got probably a couple of points less. So they are kind of where they should be in terms of understaffed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that. They are basically the fourth best side in the Premier League at the moment. So they're not rubbish.
Yeah.
They haven't suddenly become, they're not down here with Leicester and Southampton as maybe some of the rhetoric has been earlier on. They have rectified a few problems. The midfielder that they brought in, I can't remember his name, played pretty well against in the last time out in the Premier League. They've also got
Gonzalez, yeah.
Yeah, Gonzalez played well, and the lad that just brought out front, Mamouche, is it Mamouche?
Mamouche, yeah.
Yeah. Again, he's a dangerous player. So even if they haven't got Haaland to play with, they have other options. They have pace and attack. So there are dangers to be aware of. It is, for me, it's going to come down to, can we get our intensity back? Can we do what we did to them at Anfield and blitz them for the first 40? Because if we can do that, there's a very good chance we can put the game outside. If with Bradley being injured, that's a massive warning problem, because it means we've only got a right back for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do for the last 30? You can only play Jota for 60. It's going to be, can we win the game in 50 minutes? That's the conundrum you've got on Sunday. And then can you bulk the side out enough to stay it out? Because you're going to need Jota and Trent for the midweek against Newcastle. You cannot afford to blow their minutes in City, because it's no good. Now we're in the position we're in. It's not a bad position, but we kind of need 2 wins. You can't get a win against City and then get beat home against Newcastle. We just can't do that. So we need to have, we will need to manage the minutes of those two. Everybody else. He's not going to change Robertson, although I would have played Costas, but yeah, just rotation, because Robbo's played 4 and a 5 on a bounce. He's not going to change that. Midfield would be interesting. I think Diaz could return against City. The reason he was not played against Villa was, A, he was really high in terms of his minutes, and B, I think they're probably worried about Cody, so there was no rotation. So therefore, Diaz will probably play against City, which is fine. Therefore, you've got 3 out of 4 to play in midfield. And I can't remember who came off. Was it Matt came off? Matt, maybe. So they might. You could see, if you're brave of him, you could see him go for Mac as a 6, Jones and Dom. Could do. But we shall see. It'll be a tough game. It's not going to be easy. And we're going to have to win it in 55, under the hour mark.
There we go, ladies and gents. A limited time, right back concerns, draws, giving up soft chances. What a way to make you feel positive on a Thursday afternoon, eh? But we should be. We are going well. There is just a few concerns and considerations. So there we are, ladies and gents. As ever, we'll be back very shortly with transfer market metrics for you for episode 13, which hopefully some names are not unlucky when we talk about them. But for another Stat Me Up, all it leaves to say is, Bart, for the time, the insight, for the stats, the analysis, and for answering all questions, it is much appreciated, pal.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was another Stat Me Up for Anfield Index.